First of all, good afternoon for you in China, everybody. My name is Edoardo Bruno. I'm assistant professor in architecture and urban design. And I'm very, really grateful for this invitation. I'm really happy to speak with all of you. We know that many of you are connected and really excited to hear more information about our courses. Angelo was giving you some information about engineering, and I would like to present what we do, especially in the field of architecture. I'm an assistant professor in architecture, but also I work with China since last 6 years. In fact, in our university, we have a team called China Room that is in architecture, that is focused on architecture, urban planning, cooperations with Chinese universities and Chinese students in education, in research, and also in design and production. So today I would like to give this very short presentation, and it will focus about architecture and the city, or as the subtitle, Turin and its Politecnico. First of all, why we would like to give you this lecture? Because I've been in many universities in Europe and in Asia, and we can say that especially in Italy, we have a long tradition in universities, as you know, but also a very special, particular space for study at the university. So in this case, our university, like other European university, have not like campus like it happened in Tsinghua or Wannaligong or in Shanghai Tongji or other university very popular in China, where you have part of the city is like a gate community where you go to study, and inside there are many buildings for many different disciplines, engineering, architecture, or other schools. While the very peculiar aspect, and this is really important for architecture, for all the students, the young students as you are, very young student wants to become architects, is to stay not just in the campus, but stay in the city. Why I would like to say this? Because it is really important for future architects. If you are future engineers, maybe you really would like to have very good laboratories where to continue your work, your experiments. But if you want to become in the future very good architects, you have to experience the world in some way, or experience the city, where you can see many examples to take your inspiration. So as a Professor Michele Bonino, that is the delegate for China Affairs, and he is also the professor I'm working with in China for architecture and design, they give a very good presentation on our city. And I wanted to show these two pictures because you have two different aspects of what you are going to experience in Torino. On the image above, you will see the city as a historical city center, where is a very famous and ancient city from the Roman time to contemporary time has been grown with very different buildings and styles that you can see. Turin is also very famous for Baroque architecture. It is one of the capital in the world. At the same time, exactly following, and I'm really happy to be after my colleague Angelo from engineering, our city was really popular and really famous for manufacturing. Something that can be similar to what happened to Detroit in the US. So we have many industries in the city that after a very big development now are facing, as in the image below, a new stage for our city for new redevelopment. This is a topic very popular now in China that is called industrial factories redevelopment. And since China is still growing very well, and Italy experienced this growing few decades before, especially in the field of industrial regeneration, we have been quite popular in Europe, and we have been invited many times in China to speak about what we are doing in Turin to use this area in the best way for future development. So what is the really important thing for you as future students of architecture is that, as you can see in this map, our university, Politecnico di Torino, is not just one campus that is one part of the city, but it has many different venues spreading all around the cities where you can study different disciplines from engineering to architecture for many fields. And what does it mean? It means that when you have to come to Politecnico di Torino, you're not going to go just always in one single place, but for many reasons, you have to move around the city. As I said before, this will help you as students of architecture to become travelers in some way, explorers. Michele Bonino, before in his presentation, gave his introduction, saying that Le Corbusier, this very famous architect of the last century, said that Torino was a very nice, one of the best geographical location of the world. Yes, this means also that architect, especially Le Corbusier, that was really famous, it was especially, first of all, a very good traveler. And to become one of the best architect of the last century, he traveled a lot to experience and understand how the world it is. And so having in the city of Turin so many areas occupied by the university means that you engage a lot. You have to stay a lot with the space of the city. And this is really important. And all the Chinese students I met studying in our university, they always were really happy to be in a place that can be experienced, not just for studying, but for staying with friends, moving around, having big museums, having a lot of culture to experience. And so there is a time for classroom and study, and there is a time to experience the world outside the university. So in this way, Politecnico di Torino in this city is not two separate things, but are experiencing this, sharing the same ground in some way. So we, in these more focused maps I put here, we can say that there is not just buildings of the university. They are not just a simple place where full of classroom, but they are part of a much larger area of the city that you have to experience and come in order to have your daily activities. For example, in this left part, there is one very big building for architecture, the Lingotto di Torino. I will explain you a little bit later. And this is the central venue, the main venue for our university. There is a building that has been built after the Second World War, but then have a lot of expansion. So it's becoming a kind of campus inside the city instead of something that is separate. And especially for architecture, I would like to focus on this part, that is, as Michele Bonino said before, this is our main venue. It's called Castle, Valentino Castle, that is from the 18th century. And just to give you quite nice information, it is one of the UNESCO site. So it's a very, you are going to stay all day long in a very famous monument and experience the Baroque style, just staying next to the building itself. But our university is also designing by itself. So there is a dedicated team to design the future campus also for architecture. And this will be one scenario for the future development, that from the castle we are going to transform other buildings in an area very nice for the park, with different utilizing different buildings. For example, this is one very recent after the Second World War, and this one is another. Is called Torino Exposition, is like Turin Expo. Is one of the icon of the post-war period architecture. So all these three main buildings you can find in the very famous books about Italian architecture. So it's not just a simple building where architecture is taught, but is studying architecture within masterpieces. This is something really important for your future education. So, for example, this is the Lingotto venue, the one site for our architecture studies. It is really famous because it's been built at the beginning of last century, and it was a very iconic building that has been published on many magazines in the last century, for the fact that it was a factory. And this factory was a model for the whole European development of car factory, especially for the fact, as you can see from this picture, because after the cars have been produced, they can be tested on the roof of the building. So starting from very, let's say, ancient history, at least 100 years of this building, then this is being transformed by Renzo Piano, that even if you are very young, future students of architecture or already students of architecture, is the best and well-known living Italian architect. And during the 80s and the 90s, this building is being changed, is being redeveloped and changed in order to be used for commercial education and entertainment activities. And so you're not just going to stay in the future in one building. There is 100 years of history, very famous for rationalism architecture, but also for recent, let's say, redevelopment, but also becoming part of our community. So when you're entering this building, this will be the space you're going to share with other students, especially during your master degree. So all these balconies and spaces are utilized by the students in order to share their drawing, their design. And this ancient building become a kind of, let's say, gallery or art gallery to show your achievements in design and architecture. But it's really interesting because not just the buildings we are living, but these iconic masterpieces have been the base through which we as professors and researchers, we started to make new projects. For example, here you can see a picture of one project me and Professor Michele, and with the cooperation of one Gondascia in Guangzhou, we won a very big competition in Guangzhou for the development of the Giugno piano factory. It's the biggest piano maker brand in China. And as you can see from the picture, we took inspiration from the space we experience every day to give for the industrial development in China some advices from our direct experience. So this is an example on how direct experience of spaces and masterpieces we have every day become part of our future practice and work. The same we can say for the recent industrial past that we say at the beginning of this presentation, and this was really important for redevelop the future buildings of architecture. Here you are seeing some rendering of the future learning center that will be designed and built for our university, and the direct influence from the environment of post-industrial buildings that we have in our university have become the base for designing the future learning and education centers where students, not just for architecture, but also for engineers and other disciplines, will gather to pass their daily activities. So even in this case, all these examples from industrial regeneration become part of our, let's say, examples and reference to design other buildings produced by our Department of Architecture. For example, these are another project that we have designed for a building for the Winter Olympic Games in 2022 that you know very well. It will be in Beijing, and Professor Bonino and our team and also me working in this team, we have been invited to design the building that will host the Olympic Committee for the future games. So why, first of all, we have been invited? We have been invited for the exactly what I said before, for the very long experience we had for the regeneration of industrial building and long year of cooperation. Many students before this project between China and Italy have been exchanged, make dissertations, researches, and papers and studies in order to strengthen the cooperation on this topic. And we got this opportunity to design this building that now is under construction, that will be part of the venue for the big air jump ski during the Olympic Games. So again, this is another example in how living in a city that has some processes of changes and urban development is the base to produce new and interesting design. And this is exactly what you will get to come to study architecture in our faculty, to have a very nice and a very wide inspiration and other people to work with different inspiration, because they come maybe from other countries, not just Italy. This sharing and traveling way of approaching architecture, I strongly believe, is one of the best way to improve our model. Just to give you a picture, I would like to tell you that this building that you just see on a design before now is under construction, and here you can see the chief engineer of the Shugan factory near Beijing, visiting with our president and Professor Bonino that the building has been built. This is a very nice example to demonstrate that in architecture and in our universities is not just a matter to design and exercise, is also a confrontation with the real. That is, I believe, for future architects, the more interesting part. So coming back again to our venue, that is the Castle of Valentino, I would like to show you this picture from a drone view to give you a perspective of how this very important monument, and this is the Faculty of Architecture, and where the professors have their main offices, and on the ground floor is full of classrooms for your daily activities, immersed in a very important park of our city, is also a UNESCO heritage site. So this gives us, let's say, two main keywords in order to present you the studying opportunities in our university or School of Architecture. So looking our castle, this heritage consciousness, and next to it, the future challenges that design and cities are posing to us as designer. This contraposition is and the relation is really important for architects, and these are the cornerstones to set our programs for architecture. What I would like to say to you, that heritage and culture is really important to know where we come from, and it is important not just for Italy as one of the biggest and most famous places all over the earth for the numbers of UNESCO sites, so heritage, really famous heritage venues. But also in order to start from this culture and all the experience we got from the past to understand what we are going to face in the next future. So is a way to look the past and the future continuously, not just looking on one direction. For our courses of architecture, it's really important to teach students to become, first of all, very good citizens in order to understand the main challenges that they are facing, not just in Italy, of course, or in China, but the global challenges we are going to face. So this, for example, is this slide, and also the next will be very important. This is important for the students that maybe now they are in the high school, that are going to be enrolled in the bachelor degree in architecture. And I would like to inform them that exactly while we are talking, both the bachelor and the master are facing now very important cultural changes in our university. What I would like to mean that especially the bachelor in architecture will be divided, as you can see, in three very big families. First of all, enrolling in architecture the first year means to have instructions, to very basic knowledge, because it will be maybe for many of them, many of you, the first approach to design. The second part will be trying to give you the perspective of connecting your experience outside just the basic knowledge of design. That means the territory, the site, the landscape, and at the same time the construction. So it will be not just a matter of very big good in designing, but in trying to make the first relationship with what we would like to design and what the outer world would like to ask us. So this means a landscape and the construction perspective. But the very new, the very upcoming change will be on the third year, that is called Beyond, where you will have inquiries and exploration. The third year will be very free. So after the first 2 years, where the students just began to have a first basic experience in designing, it will be left more free to have his own path or research, even if we are on the bachelor, and trying to connect new disciplines with what is going to do for future design development. So there will be, for example, a field of exploration and inquiry that is on design, another one focused maybe on modeling. Is becoming a very popular three-dimensional skill way of designing buildings in order to manage in the best way virtual reality and model and BIM and CAD modeling, and also assessment in order to have strategic and evaluation of projects. And we have very good professors, especially in this level, for the relation between economy and stakeholder analysis and architecture. The other is for students that already got their bachelor and they would like to come to have a master degree in architecture in our university. And yes, this master degree is becoming very popular, especially for international students. And exactly in these weeks, we are having many meetings between professors to understand which will be, in our opinion, the best way to organize our future master degrees. And we are going to have these three, let's say, big family of how we can develop design in different fields. One is the city, and is basically the field where I'm teaching together with other colleagues. And that's why also this presentation is really focusing on the importance to stay and study in the city. What does it mean, city? It means the possibility to to acquire the knowledge and the tools to be part of, to be able to manage the project, not just on the building scale, but also in an urban design scale. Just to give you an example, recently we just got from Beijing the possibility to teach even in China a co-run program. That means a sort of double degree for Chinese students having a master in urban design. And this cooperation to study urban design in architecture in China, thanks to the help and the intervention of the Italian professor, will be the first one course of this, this kind of typology in the history of architecture of the Chinese school. The second field, let's say, is heritage, and as I told you before, is really important, the cultural heritage in Italy, and it's really easy to have very good professors that experience on this field for monuments and building to be restored. And the third one will be more focused on energy and sustainability. As Michele Bonino said at the beginning of the presentation, we won this very important project called the Solar Decathlon, and it was a very important starting ground to understand how engineers, energy engineers, and architecture had the possibility to cooperate in design, and the real design. This is not just a design, but a real project to be energy efficient. Sustainability, this field is becoming very, very popular in the last recent years, and we are having very good feedbacks about this course, especially because, as you know, climate change and energy saving or zero, low carbon energy strategies are becoming more and more on the political and daily and even media agenda. So our university specializing with the experts, even coming from engineering on this field, is a very important step. So here you have a slide to have a very wide, so if you want to make a screenshot, but also you're going to find this information in our Politecnico Torino website. So it will be the main steps and the opportunities for national incoming, also international incoming, starting to study architecture in our university, starting from bachelor's. You have admission test, but also another admission test for the master, and having even after specializing master, postgraduate school, and also the PhD schools especially for international students. We are going in the PhD school, activating a lot of cooperation and co-funding for future researcher and professors. So I would like to conclude my presentation, and sorry for being maybe too long. I would like to give you possibility to raise some question. I wanted to give you a bite of what we are going to experience when you come to study architecture in our school. And saying that you're going to come to study architecture in our school, just the school, is not the right definition I wanted to give you. Is to come and study in a city. So this is just a picture of seeing part of our university, and as you can see, it's very difficult to recognize where is the building of the university and when it began the boundary of the city or residential area. So going to be immersed in a very complex, but at the same time exciting environment is, from my opinion, also from my colleague in the field of architecture, to be the best way, especially when you are very young, to have a very wide and deep sense of what does it mean design for future cities and buildings. This means that you are going to explore, first of all, but also exploring, then you will be able to have the tools to select as adults, not just as students, but as future practitioners, the most important challenges you have to face for the future as designers and architects. I would like to thank you all. Really sorry to not be in person, but having this remote connection.